Oh, hey guys. What's up, guys? It's Johnny Candido of Candido Training HQ. Today's week 4 of the 10 Rep Max program. Now, earlier this week, I had a 5x5 with 495 pounds. So a 5-plate 5x5 on the squat, and that honestly went amazingly well. That is the heaviest I've ever done for that type of volume work in my life by far. And it was an RP 7.5 cap by that 5th set. And to be honest, I would say probably moved at RP 7 or maybe even RP 6.5. And I am just unbelievably happy with that. And to be honest, like there's part of me that I want to push a 5x5 to like 525 and beyond, but that'll come later. So this workout, all I need to do is hit 495 pounds for a high hype set at 8. And this will connect to that RPE theme of the last video, is I'm already gonna predetermine it that if I hit it RP 6.5 or easier, I will absolutely do 505 pounds for the 10 rep max instead of my initial goal of 500 for 10. So that would be above and beyond. And I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I get it like 505 for 11, but I probably won't consider doing that. Because the moment you think like that, then you may just miss that, 9th to 10th rep.
You're getting ahead of yourself as usual.
So again, really narrow windows and using the past week to predict the next week. And even though we're following RPE, you can mush things around to where you still have your own limits and just accept that, hey, if you undershoot it, then we'll just adjust next week. But I'm not even gonna risk going 500 for 8 now or more, even though it could possibly be at RP 7, because sometimes you don't wanna risk that momentum being bucked. Because once you lose the momentum, it's very hard to get it back. But when you have it, it's amazing to keep it going. So that being said, let's go gym. All right, now we're in the gym where it really counts. Before I go any further, comment below what is your primary goal of your life in powerlifting or weightlifting. So goal setting is super important, not just in the long term, but also in, of course, the medium term, but it also affects your decisions. It affects how much momentum and your ability to judge RP. Really, it all hinges on what is your initial frame of reference. What are you even expecting? So, by the way, I had a 550 single heat RP6 and the SD card did malfunction. So that wasn't just for an edit. So just imagine that moving an RP6 with low hype, and then this 495 times 8 top set with high hype was the main focus. And my goal was to honestly hit an RP 6.5 or easier, but it ended up moving a little bit harder than I expected, which I'll get back to at the end of this video on some adjustments I'm gonna make for that. But to get back to goal setting, this is so important because this 10 rep max phase is a classic example of something where you don't have to do it. It's not critical, but to me, it's just as important as a powerlifting meet. It's just as important as going to the Arnold or going for a 625 pound squat. And the reason for that is because it's what's in front of me. And you have to have that mindset of every single little goal in front of you matters as much as anything else. And this is something where I think it has been lost in today's era a little bit, not to be the boomer, but Louis Simmons was a fantastic example of someone who, RIP, who coached lifters in a way where every single week, everything mattered. Even the variations mattered because everyone's competing and setting new PRs. And now it can be tempting to kind of wash away into thinking, I'll never be as strong as Austin Perkins because everyone's hitting the same old RP8 single that no one cares about, and you're just not him. But the reality is even a guy like that just built up on these smaller goals. And I do think this is where having variation PRs, having rep PRs, either 10 rep max phase or 3 rep max, 2 rep max, even though I'm a big proponent of singles year round, that doesn't mean they're the only thing that matters. And a great point Greg Knuckles made in an article, I'll put on the screen here real quick, is the final third point he said about how sometimes people won't care about certain goals as much as others. And that's huge in the powerlifting world. I don't know of many people who care about a 10 rep max. I do. So I'm going to attack it, even though I know it won't get as many views as squatting 639 or 660 at some point. I care about it. So because of that, I'm going to put my heart into it as if it's 2015 IPF Worlds. Today was a tough one. On days like this, where it doesn't go quite as expected, it's important to just accept it for what it is. And I'm going to compare my 495 for 8 top set and look at what did I do technically differently last week with 485 for 8, which moved at like RP 5. So obviously adding 10 pounds should not have been this much more difficult. So right now it's 3 possible things. One of them being if I need to sit in my hips more, as I talked about, and that did go better, as I mentioned, on the back-offs. But I also have to figure out, is it descent speed? Should I go down slower? Is that part of why those back downs went better in and of itself? Or is it only because going down slower was associated with staying in my hips more? And figuring that out is really important too, because if just sitting in my hips alone is the solution, well then I should actually go down and sit in the hips and then go fast as possible while maintaining that. So separating those two is gonna be really important to look at, and that I'll have to look back at that old footage to really make my mind up. But then the third point is that tightening of the belt. Did tightening the belt that 1 notch tighter for those back offs, which actually matched how tight I had it last week, so it was only that top set that didn't go well that I had the belt that 1 notch looser, is that also the primary cause? And obviously it could be a mixture of all of these, but when you go into that next week, anytime you have a problem, you have to reduce it to 1. It has to be 1 solution so that you're not thinking about anything else. So next week, I'll also have a 3x5. They'll be easier, only at RP6 or easier. So it won't be like the 5x5 with 495 that I had earlier this week, which obviously that probably played a role. And then also I didn't have leg press today. So that slight reduction in volume by cutting out the machine work should also lead me into a little bit of a fresher next week. And next week, we're gonna fucking kill 500 for 10.